Code 1, Civil Priority. Isolation now in effect. To avoid the risk of contamination, please stay indoors and await further instructions.
Well, good morning to Tribe World. I hope you're all doing well in these challenging and troubled times. And it's a great pleasure and a privilege to have this opportunity and time to do some podcasts with your favorite cast members of the tribe. And I'm joined this morning from across the pond, as we call it, Tasman, by none other than Antonia Prebble, who is best known and loved by you all as Trudy in the tribe. Good morning, Tony. How are you?
Good morning, Ray. I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
Oh, okay. I'm here in Australia, and you're obviously you're in Wellington, are you?
I'm in Auckland, actually.
Oh, in Auckland.
I moved to Auckland, maybe almost 15 years ago now, and we decided to stay up here. It did cross our minds to go back and hunker down with my parents in Wellington, but we ended up just deciding to stay in Auckland.
We were just sharing some memories before we came online, and Tony and I were just saying how surreal it is to that very first scene in the tribe where the authorities are appealing for calm throughout the isolation process. So Tony, how are you coping? What do you do with yourself all day?
I'm doing pretty well, really. My partner Dan and I, we have an 8.5-month-old baby called Freddie, and that's actually, well, on so many levels, it's great having him, but at the moment it feels sort of particularly helpful in a way, because he just needs the same level and nature of care as he does as always, and he obviously doesn't know that anything's different. So we're kind of going about our daily domestic routines in a relatively similar way, so it doesn't feel like a huge, super significant change for us. The only thing that obviously is different is every time we go outside, there's no one there, and we're unable to work. Dan and I we both work on the same TV show, and we stopped filming last Monday.
Was that kind of not planned? With the unexpected lockdown occurred, you just had to stop shooting, I guess?
Yeah, that's right. So we're halfway through season 6 of West Side, which is the show we've both been doing for the last few years. This is the final season. And we were just shy of halfway through when the announcement from the Prime Minister came that we were going into level 3 lockdown, which meant that non-essential businesses and workplaces had to close and people had to work from home. And so that was it. I actually wasn't filming that day, so I got all this information secondhand, but people just had to down tools, put the cameras away and go home and not come back. At the moment, we're on a 4-week hiatus because that's the period of lockdown that the government have suggested we're going to try. But we really, beyond that, we don't know when we're starting again. So yeah, it's such a strange time, and everyone's saying it's unprecedented, and we're using the word unprecedented in an unprecedented number of times. But it really is, isn't it? I mean, in most people's living memory, this is the most significant thing to have happened.
That's right. It's quite extraordinary. And so, Tony, I mean, with Freddie, that's first of all, many congratulations, and I know all your fans around the world will be thrilled for you. And you're enjoying motherhood?
I am. Yeah, it's just a wonderful thing. I feel really lucky that I'm able to be a mum and have this wonderful baby. So yeah, it's great. It's everything that people said, it's going to fly by, the nights are long, but the weeks fly by, and that's exactly the thing. I mean, he's now this 10.5 kilo bonny bouncing baby who's just about to start crawling and is, seems fiercely grown up and independent to us. But it has really flown by, and in a way, looking on the bright side of all of this, or the silver lining, I should say, it's wonderful to really have this concentrated level of time with him where both of his parents are here. So he's actually having the time of his life.
Isn't that lovely? And has it changed your life? Again, it sounds a bit of a weird question. I know when I became a father, almost overnight, it was really strange, really. I mean, it just changed my life, I mean, somebody had taken this. I mean, love is an interesting thing, where somebody's happiness or well-being suddenly becomes ahead of your own, and it's a very weird feeling, isn't it, to become a parent?
Yeah, it is. It's something that you can't really fathom until you are a parent, I think, because it adds a new dimension to your life. And it wasn't like there was something missing before that. Your life was very full and had many dimensions, but this is just an extra one. So it just expands in a way that you can't really imagine it beforehand. But yeah, I think my life's definitely changed. I'm at home a lot more.
Yeah.
I'm someone who sort of likes to do a lot of things and be busy and have a lot going on all the time. And I've definitely slowed down quite a lot out of necessity, obviously, because I have a new job, which is looking after Freddie.
Yeah.
But I'm loving it. And interestingly, I actually don't feel like I've changed as much as I thought I would. I think prior to having a baby, I sort of thought like my sense of identity or my consciousness would sort of change in this really significant way, and that I'd be looking at the world totally differently. But I actually feel very much like myself, but just with this great new aspect to my life, with this great new person that I get to hang out with every day.
Yeah.
So, and I feel I'm quite pleased about that. Like I still feel ambitious. I still want, to keep working on my career, but now that's tempered with, as you said, that having his well-being as the utmost priority, which is a really nice thing because it feels like things are in the order that they should be.
Yeah, that's good for you. Good for you. That's very, very, very special. And no, I think that's an interesting. I know, when I look many, many moons ago, when my first daughter was born, and the kids, and where we had where they joined our life rather than us joining their life, and so I think you're doing it the right way. Your life continues, and Freddie joins you rather than you joining Freddie. I mean, otherwise they'd wrap you around their little finger, and you'd be, when Saran, my daughter, was born, she'd cry, I'd pick her up, and I thought, oh my God, I can't live like this. I've got to keep going with my own life and do my writing and chase my dreams, and this little one needs to fit in with my own routine rather than me trying to fit in with her routine, But and it has to be. I mean, I'm sure all your fans around the world, Tony, will remember that amazing scene in the early series where you, as a very young actress, I mean, portrayed in such a powerful and profound way the birth in the tribe. Do you remember that? I mean, or did you think about it?
I do. That was one of the very first scenes I shot, actually,
Wow.
because of how the episodic shooting schedule was organized. That episode, which I think is episode 3 or 4 of season 1.
Episode 4, actually, that's right.
Yeah, episode 4. We shot that, first, and so that really was one of my first scenes. So, yeah, it did feel like quite a significant and challenging thing to do, because obviously I hadn't had any experience, and in fact still did not have any experience until last year of giving birth for real.
Yeah.
So I remember, talking to my mum a lot about her experiences and talking to the makeup artist about her experiences. And then I think I just kind of, I don't know, followed my instincts. And I think there's something quite good about when you're young. You don't have a lot of hang-ups or anything, and so you just kind of go for it because you don't have a lot of other things to think about. So I think on the day I just kind of went for it and trusted the director and trusted the people around me, and and then that's what ended up on screen.
Do you know, Tony, of all the comments we ever get on the tribe, that's always number one, where it played such a powerful. I mean, teenage pregnancy. I suppose it's it's very topical, but your performance, I mean, really, just very, very magical and very special. And I remember seeing it in the rushes, and it just blew my mind. And my wife actually thought, my God, I mean, that's extraordinary. So, and testament to your talent, I have to say. And so, Tony, you and we go back. I was just trying to 23 years, maybe 24 years, when I first, you first came into my life when we cast you in A Crack in Time in William Shatner's A Twist in the Tail.
Yeah, that was the end of 1997, wasn't
That's
it?
right. That's right. And had you? I mean, had you always wanted to get into acting as a little girl, as a young child?
Yeah, I actually had. I think I'm one of the quite, unique or weird people, whichever way you want to look at it, that I knew that I wanted to be an actress from my earliest memories, really. So I can remember, thinking as a 3-year-old, a 4-year-old, a 5-year-old that I just loved performing, and I just had this sort of spark inside me that would burst into flame as soon as I did any kind of performance. And so I just knew that I was going to be an actress from based on nothing. Like, I don't come from a performance family or anything like that, but I just knew that that was my calling, I suppose. And so I, did lots of amateur theatre and musicals and things as a kid, anything I could get my hands on. Uh, and then I got an agent, an actor's agent, when I was about 11. And then I got my first job on a TV show called Mirror Mirror in 97. And then at the end of 1997, worked with you
That's
on
right.
A Crack in Time. And then it was The Tribe for the next 5 years.
How terrific for you, to be able to. I mean, I've never worked a day in my life, but I work very hard, but I don't call it work. And you're obviously the same. I mean, I was speaking with somebody the other day, and I think creativity is like an itch that you've got to scratch, isn't it? You just can't help but do it, and it's you just got to keep doing it, and that's great that you're. And for the listeners, Antonia's probably too modest to say, but I'm so proud of how your career is amazing, and Tony's one of the big name in down in this neck of the woods, and this current series you're filming, Antonia, maybe I don't know if some of the overseas, if it's sold overseas or not, but is that West Side? Is it or
Yes, West Side.
that's a huge title, and if anybody has an opportunity to catch it or some of Antonia's other shows, you must really check them out because she's again, without embarrassing you, have always been in awe and admire and respect your talent, and I think you've got a great future there. And Freddie's going to be very proud of his mum as the years pass, Tony, and you do lots of great things. The best is yet to come, I think, for you.
Oh, thank you so much, Ray. That's really, really lovely of you to say. I really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah,
Thank
no,
you.
and I'm looking forward to the next time we work together, and I'd do it in a heartbeat, that's for sure. And so, we've got a lot of fans around the world who are in a similar boat, Tony, and some are actually quite anxious, and some even frightened. And have you any thoughts on how that might, how you cope with that, your anxieties, or?
Oh gosh, I mean, I completely understand it. It is such an uncertain time, and the future is just so difficult to predict. And I think sometimes uncertainty is actually more difficult to cope with than a certain bad situation.
Mhm.
Like, if you at least know what the context is, even if that context is really difficult, I think it's somehow easier to cope with that than something that is still up in the air. And it definitely feels up in the air for us here in New Zealand. And I'm sure it feels up in the air and really difficult to predict what's going to happen all over the world. So I really feel for everyone. I think for me, there's something that gives me solace, that we're all in the same boat, like we're all in this together. And really, what an incredible thing to happen to the world, where worldwide we are all united in the same purpose and the same goal for perhaps the first time ever in such a specific way. So I think take comfort in that, like, you are not alone. Everyone is going through this. And then I think on a day-to-day level, it's just important to do the practical things that we can to look after our mental and physical health. And that's just the simple things, like make sure you're getting enough physical activity and exercise. Even though we're restricted to being in and around our houses, there's lots we can do. Make sure you're eating a good diet, For me, I find a daily practice of meditation just an absolute game changer. It is scientifically proven to relax your mind and just make change your attitude about things. So I do about 15 minutes a day at a minimum of meditation, and that can be literally just sitting still and breathing in and out and focusing on your breath. Well, there's lots of different kinds on the internet that you can tune into, but I would strongly recommend doing that. And then I think just really making an effort with the people you live with, because that's really difficult. We're not sort of naturally oriented to want to spend every single waking moment of life with people. So just really making an effort to keep those relationships positive, to do kind things for each other, and I think also working out some kind of routine or at least structure for your day. Giving yourself goals that you might want to achieve during this time can again just give a sense of order and purpose to what does feel like very, very uncertain times.
So I think you're right, actually, and I think you're bang on with the uncertainty. I mean, it's fear. It's almost like it's an interesting thing. Fear is an emotion. I mean, and if we feed it with the imagination and that kind of uncertainty, that it's like fast food, junk food. It can kind of pollute the mind and cause anxiety, and really, as you rightly say, there's a collective consciousness really around the world that we're all in the same boat. And I think, I guess, mindfulness is where you try and live in the moment, and not to imagine the worst in the future, because you can cope with anything really once you know what it is you're dealing with. And
yeah, I think we are, as humanity, people are so adaptable, and more than we give ourselves credit for, because you don't know how you are going to react to something until it happens. But like becoming a mum, for example, that was a huge, significant change in my life. But you just, and before I had Freddie, I couldn't imagine what my life was going to be like and how I would cope. And yes, there definitely have been challenging moments, but you just adjust to your circumstances. And similarly, like this, we've never been on a lockdown period before. And again, how are we going to cope? What's going to happen? Yes, there will be challenging times, but I'm sure that if we all will just adapt and adjust to whatever will become the new normal. But we just have to be kind to ourselves during that process, because transitions are always tricky. And whatever phase of life we're talking about, transitions are tricky, and we are in a transition at the moment with an uncertain end point, because we haven't done it before. It's new. But I think we ultimately just have to trust that we're on the right track and that things ultimately will be okay.
Yeah, I think that's very inspired words, Tony. Well done. And possibly, if I could just add a couple of other elements to that, and see what your views are. I think it's also important to talk about your fears or anxieties, and if you're alone at this point in time, not to feel embarrassed or ashamed to pick up the phone and speak to somebody, anybody, just to say, I'm scared, I'm struggling, and it really helps to know there's somebody there. What do you think about that, Tony? Do you agree?
I agree 100%. I'm still kind of sometimes blown away about how helpful it is to say something out loud, and to communicate some true feelings, some true vulnerability that you have inside. Just saying it out loud has the most profound effect, I think, because otherwise it's like we've got a boiling pot and the lid's on tightly, and there's just all this energy and anxiety and adrenaline bubbling away. And as soon as you just literally say the words out of your mouth to someone who is in a space to properly hear you, the lid comes off, and suddenly your whole system calms down, and again your perspective can change, and things don't seem nearly as difficult as they did before. So yeah, absolutely, reaching out. And this, yeah, we're all feeling vulnerable and fragile at the moment. So again, it's a sort of a wonderful time to be able to share that with people. It can be quite a special thing, I think.
And Antonia, I think we've shared some some thoughts on this, where we get a lot of letters still, and we're always amazed at the loyalty and support of those in Tribe World, our tribal brothers and sisters, as we say there. It's quite extraordinary, the kind of all these years they've been there for us, and for some reason the series emotionally connected with them in such a profound way, and the actual series is a lot of rewatching, and it's helping them. It's helping them through this, and to and my aspiration in the series was to have something that was positive and aspirational, but above all hope, and for your character Trudy, we've got a lot of questions, so I'm going to in a minute try and I'm hogging you right now. I'm interested in. It's nice to have the chance to catch up with Tony, but a lot of the fans have been writing with lots of questions, so I'll get to that in a minute if I may. But you've got enough groceries and practical things. You're able to go out for walks, I think, are you? And
yeah, so our essential services are still open in New Zealand, which means supermarkets, pharmacies and banks. And so, yeah, we can shop as normal. And in fact, that's a really important message from the government, that we should just keep shopping as normal and not panic buy. So if everyone just buys their usual groceries, then there'll be enough for everyone. So yeah, we've got a stocked pantry, and are just sort of trying to, go every few days as we normally would, and just get what we need. And yes, we are able to go out for walks. And again, because of Freddie's age, he's only 8.5 months old, we're actually not quite at the playground age yet, which are obviously closed at the moment, so that doesn't affect us either. So we just, going out for a couple of walks every day. I've just come back from one back with him this morning.
Nice,
and that's our domestic routine is relatively unchanged.
Isn't that good? That over here, I mean, my routine, I mean, it's I joke about it with some of the other cast members, is trying to get toilet paper, Tony. It's just like gold now,
Oh God, I've seen it online. That's so stressful. That's really stressful.
No, it is. It's like I was saying, and I'm sick and tired of washing my hands. I mean, I've got no skin left. I'm just constantly washing the hands and looking for a little bit. This toilet paper thing is quite bizarre, really. And I can kind of understand it, but on the practical terms. But it's and I have visions of me wrapping myself in toilet paper and saying there's no way these bad virus germs are going to get through that. That's rather than a mask. It's just weird that. So I'll come now. I'm just going to get my glasses on, and here we go. This is from Michelle Monahan. Good morning, Michelle. Thank you for your question. I'll just read this for you, Tony. What did you find most interesting about Trudy's character development over the course of the tribe?
Oh, Michelle, really good question. Well, I felt really lucky with Trudy as a character, because she did have so much character development over the seasons. And it was all pretty interesting, really, because it was all very challenging situations that she was in. But I think probably what was the most fascinating was when she was brainwashed by the Chosen and became, part of this cult and this almost semi sort of religious figure that people worshipped her. Like, that is a really, really interesting slice of humanity there, I think. And it's something that still goes on. We all can fall in love with figures that we try to worship in different ways. So yeah, I thought when I read that and played all those scenes, I thought, oh yeah, this is very, very interesting. And whilst of course slightly, heightened and with a sci-fi spin that the tribe had, I think did call to a very something in humanity that is quite prevalent, which is we're very easily swept up if we're in a vulnerable position by powerful figures, and we can be vulnerable to the messages they send us.
No, that's interesting. I mean, just as a matter of interest, Tony, are you religious?
I I'd say not really. I don't go to any particular church. So no, I'd say I'm not religious. I have my own idea or feelings about spirituality and um, sort of a not. I think there's more than just the physical plane on the earth. I think we definitely have more. I have more of a dualistic approach, and I believe in like energy and the power of energy, and that binds everything together, I suppose. But I think, and I think you can tune into something that is bigger than just matter. But I don't follow any specific religious.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. I mean, the spirituality is something that as some of the listeners will be aware, I've got a vineyard, and that was an interesting thing for me, a need for me to have an alternative to our industry, which I'm passionate about as you are, and which I love. But I felt the need, the older I got, to get in tune with Mother Nature, the earth, and that spirituality, to slow down to the speed of life. You can't get tractor rage going at 4 miles an hour. And
Yeah.
and there's something about watching the sunsets and taking that time. And you mentioned about meditation, and you can't ignore the whisper of mortality that inhabits every fading sunset. And it's nice to be able to take that time and slow down and maybe circling back to this situation in the world we all find ourselves in, that in the Gaian hypothesis, which I'm quite fascinated by, that's you mentioned about adapting and evolving, and maybe this can be a very good thing where this can cause us to stop, hit the pause button, and to reflect what kind of world will Freddie inhabit? What kind of world will his children, your grandchildren, inhabit? And I think perhaps we were maybe with the environment and pollution and all of that it's funny how within that Gaian hypothesis that the natural world and also the human species, that these things kind of give us a leveler. I mean, it forces you to take stock and out of this. I mean, I'm just wondering how do you think it's going to change your life at all, or your direction, your view, or the world will change? I hope so. I mean, what do you think, Tony?
Yeah. Oh, I think it must change. And it has to really. And that's an interesting thing you're talking about, the leveler. It does feel like, we were in this climate disaster and everyone's saying, what are we going to do? There's no turning back. We're past the turning point. And then this happens, and now suddenly no one can fly internationally, or, hardly anyone can fly. And people are having to eat locally, source local products. And the pollution levels at the moment must be so much lower than they normally are. So that's it's a really interesting perspective on it. And I agree with you. I think something good definitely will come out of this, which is not to underestimate how challenging it will be for a lot of people, for most people, I think. But I think there will be something good. There has to be something good that comes out of this. But what do I think the world will look like? I don't know. I mean, I feel in the medium term, at least for the next few years, the golden age of travel will be over. I think we might look back at how quickly we just popped over to Australia, or we just jetted over to Bali, or I would go over to LA for 3 months a year, for acting reasons. I wonder if we'll look back at how quickly and easily we did that. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that, because at the moment it's looking like borders will be closed until there's a vaccine, and that looks like that won't be for 18 months, for a couple of years. So I think at the moment, again, so hard to predict, but at the moment it feels like life will be a lot more focused and centralized around the place that you live, as opposed to more internationally oriented.
Yeah, interesting. That's quite a fascinating insight on that. And I've got another question from Danielle Spears. Good morning, Danielle. I'll just read this. Hi, Antonia. Hope things are well with you and everyone is staying safe. I'm from the States and I loved watching the shows. My question is, what was your favorite scene to shoot and why?
Oh, this is making me trawl my memory banks, Danielle. I think possibly what felt really significant was the last scene that we shot of the last series when we were on the boat leaving the land where we all lived behind. And I think it was because we were, well, not all of the characters were on board, but most of them were, and it felt really significant for both the characters from a story point of view, but also for us, because we had been working on this show for 5 years, and we were all teenagers, so they were really formative years of our lives, and we knew that this meant it was coming to an end. So I think it felt really, really significant on both a personal and an artistic level. And when those two things collide, it's always pretty special.
Yeah, that's interesting. That I've got one now, Tony, from Jonathan Pierce. Good morning, Jonathan. Hi, Antonia. What was your favourite tribe, and who, given the choice, would you have joined?
Yeah, hi, Jonathan. My favourite tribe was definitely the Mall Rats, and I think, like what you were talking about earlier, Ray, your vision for the tribe in general was ultimately something that would give people hope. It was a hopeful vision of the world, and I think that's what the Mall Rats ultimately felt like they were doing as well. That they were there to build a future and a society that was hopefully better than the one that came in the past. And even though there was a lot of internal conflict and characters dealing with really, really challenging issues, ultimately the Mall Rats were aligned with hope. And so, yeah, I would align with them too.
Do you know, it's interesting. I mean, I've always been a very big Disney lover, I have to say, and all my life. And when the tribe first came into existence, and I was briefing some of the writers, I'd always say, think of the Mole Rats as Jiminy Cricket, and Jiminy Cricket was represented conscience in Pinocchio, and the Mole Rats, I think, are the governing factor of conscience of our future. That was metaphorically where swirling around them was this insane, from the locos to the chosen. But the Mole Rats, and within the Mole Rats, I mean, there was all that chaos and that conflict, but as happens in human drama and interplay. But fundamentally, at the roots, it was all rooted in that conscience, and so and I think possibly that's why it's emotionally connected, Tony, with our listeners, and in such a profound way. You know, it's something I've never experienced anything like it. I mean, what about your other shows? I mean, I know they're very popular and you have a big fan base in all your series, and but have you experienced anything like this, like the tribe, Tony? I mean, the reaction from the fans?
No, I haven't. And still to this day, even though I think we shot the last season in 2002, I get the most communication and, messages online and letters and things like that from tribe fans. And it does, out of everything I've done, it does seem to have connected to fans on a deeper level. So other shows that I've done, have been popular, and people sort of, love them, or they, I'm thinking about Rageous Fortune and West Side, which sort of has captured a great New Zealand spirit in it. But I think for the tribe, the level of connection that fans had with it was pretty unparalleled in anything else that I've done. And I've had so many, countless messages of people saying it helped me so much. Watching your character go through what she went through, watching what the Mall Rats were doing, helped me so much in my life. I was going through a really difficult time, and I watched the tribe, and it would give me hope. And hope was often the word that was used, actually. And every time I read those, I just go, well, wonderful. Because I think if you help, like, there's the justification for doing the show beyond even anything artistic. It's if it can change people's lives and help people's lives, even if it's one person. But in this case of the tribe, it's so many people. And I continue to feel really proud of that. And if people are still watching it and are still getting something out of it, That's great. And I was thinking, just knowing that we were chatting today, I was just reflecting back again on why the tribe did have such a profound impact on so many people. And I think it's because it plays with this sort of interesting paradox of a young person's deepest fear, but also wildest fantasy, which is to be alone. So as a teenager, your parents are horrifically annoying and you want to rebel and you want to be independent and you just wish they'd leave you alone. But at the same time, you're also really scared, you don't know who you are, and you need to be part of a safe, loving family unit. And that's really what, is an anchor and a compass for your life at that time. And the tribe absolutely sits on that midpoint of a deepest fear of being alone and wildest fantasy of being free. And I think that just tunes into a really interesting part of our identity, and particularly of young people's identity. And then the issues that were tackled, teenage pregnancy, eating disorders, all of those things, which are really fragile, delicate, vulnerable things to be talking about, that are relatable, because these are things that people go through and that are really difficult to go through. And I think when you see people go through them and get through them, it gives hope that you'll be able to get through it too.
No, I think that's I endorse entirely what I think that's very very wise words there. I totally agree. And as a young person yourself, when you went on tour, for example, Tony, that must have been quite an amazing experience to, at that time, you were just early in your acting career and probably not recognized in New Zealand. But, you are, of course, now, because, again, for the overseas viewers, these series Tony is doing a huge, iconic, very popular series in New Zealand and no doubt in other countries. But coming back to the tribe tours, you would go from a reasonably anonymous existence, I suppose, as a young lass, acting in this series, and arrive overseas to be greeted by thousands and thousands at the airport and desperate for your autograph and all pictures and all kinds of. How was that?
Yeah, that was pretty wild, because it just wasn't the case in New Zealand. The tribe did have some audience in New Zealand, but nothing in comparison to the European audience. It really sort of struck a chord over there. And we'd get letters and things from people in Germany and Finland and England, which were lovely. But I don't think anything really prepared me for what it was like. And it was amazing, really. People would come and meet us all dressed up in tribal outfits. They would have done their hair, would have done their makeup, got these amazing costumes. And it was quite incredible just seeing how much of an impact our little show that we were making at the end of the world and another state of Australia, a lot of people think New Zealanders, was having this real impact on the other side of the world with really lovely people. I think all the people we met just seemed so sweet and genuine. So yeah, it was great. But I think seeing the efforts that people went to with their hair and costumes and makeup was great. And actually that just reminded me, I'll say it now so I don't forget. I was talking to a friend of mine the other day, just catching up about how he was going in lockdown. And he said, well, I'm going to grow my beard for the whole time that I'm in lockdown. And I said, oh, yeah, that's fair enough. That sounds like a good idea. And he said, and I think we should all dye our hair crazy colors. And he's a recent-ish friend of mine. He doesn't know anything about, we weren't friends when I was doing the tribe. So he didn't know that we all had these crazy colored hair. Wow. And I just thought, wow, that's so interesting that your instinct is actually to dye your hair a crazy color, which is fascinating, because again, wow, okay, we were on point with that instinct to be a bit wild and different.
That's a hoot, actually. That's funny that I mean, it is. It's the kind of, as you say, without adults to guide or rule or protect or whatever, that, when I mean, just to express yourself through music or fashion or makeup or whatever. I mean, that's extraordinary. I've just got another question here, so bear with me. This is from James Ortega. If you haven't finished filming the most recent series of West Side, could you somehow slip in a Trudy tribe Easter egg into an episode?
Oh yeah, what a great idea. Oh, that's a great idea. Okay, leave it with me. We
Yeah, well
haven't
done.
finished. We're about halfway through. So if and when we are able to go back, I will definitely see if I can slip that in. Yeah, that's a
No
great
problem.
idea.
Well done. I've got another one from Hannah Pennington. Good morning, Hannah. Did you enjoy playing Trudy? And if you could have been any other character, who would you be?
Oh, that's a really great question. Yes, I loved being Trudy. I uh, just thought all of the storylines that she was given were fantastic and really interesting and challenging. There was always something new going on. Um, I always thought Jack was pretty hilarious and sweet. So I think, yeah, if there was another character I could have played, it would be him because he was pretty funny and very lovable, which was obviously enhanced by Michael Wesley Smith who played him. But yeah, I think I'll say Jack.
Now, segueing into a different perspective on this from Jess Cheers. Good morning, Jess. Did you ever dislike Trudy as a character? Like her personality, etc., or was she a fun character to portray?
Yeah, that's a really interesting and good question because a lot of the circumstances and situations that she was getting into were pretty challenging, and she wasn't always, behaving in the best interests of the people she was around. Um, but no, I never disliked her. One really important thing when you're acting is to never judge your character because then you're actually outside of your character and you're sort of looking at your character objectively as opposed to embodying the character because a character is never trying to be evil. They're always trying their best and they're just working with whatever challenges are currently with them. So I think even when I was playing Trudy, it was really important to never judge her and go, oh my gosh, why is she doing this? But instead to really to really ask why is she doing this, and justify that from myself as opposed to objectively say she shouldn't be doing it.
That's a great insight there, and I think that will be of great interest, Tony, to a lot of I get a lot of letters from people asking for tips on how to get into the business. Some of them aspire to be actresses or actors or writers or whatever, and that's an interesting for those. That's a wonderful. Again, it shows you. I mean, how you come at some of your roles, and that's very very interesting. And yeah, now I've got one from Matthew Jones. Now that's a familiar name. Good morning, Matthew. I think you and I have connected on many occasions. I hope you're doing well, and nice to hear from you. So, a question for Tony: did playing Trudy and being a parent in the show help you in any way prepare for being a parent now? Very interesting.
Yeah, that is a really good question. Well, I think it probably helped that I was from a young age very comfortable around babies. Um, because I was obviously carrying little baby Brady around for many years, and so I think on a practical level, it just got me familiar with what that would be like. And interestingly, this is not quite an answer to your question, but after playing Trudy, I've gone on to give birth on 5 times in my career.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
Was the performance similar, or how do you prepare for that? Do you find yourself doing the same things, Tony? That's interesting.
yeah. Well, I think the older I've gotten and more as sort of technology and developed, I was able to do more sort of specific research because you'd be amazed, right? How many people film their births and then put them on the internet.
Wow, no, that's incredible. That's incredible.
So,
And your birth with Freddie, was it as you expected, or was it
um,
easier, worse, or I mean, I'll probably get kicked when my wife. She says that's a typical man's kind of question. I mean, what was harder? Was it the real life or the acting?
definitely the real life. I have to say, it was a lot more painful than I thought it was going to be.
Wow. Wow.
It really was. But it was really, really well managed. So, also don't worry to anyone who's hasn't had a baby and is thinking they might like to. I was I was really fortunate in that my mum had really positive birth experiences, and so she only ever talked about birth in a positive way. So I think that really helped me, in that I was approaching it with not a lot of anxiety. I knew it would be okay, and I think that really helped me. So I definitely would like to pass that on. Like, it's an intense thing to go through, but you'll absolutely be fine, and modern medicine is there to help you. So don't worry, you'll be fine.
I got one now from Ray Albone. Hi, Antonia. Do you find as an adult that there is still a little bit of Trudy in you?
Hi, Ray. Do I think there's a bit of Trudy in me? I mean, I guess there is, because obviously the only resources we have really to draw on when we're playing a character is ourselves, our imagination, and the research that we do. So yes, in that sense, I think there definitely is. But I think just on a day-to-day level, how we approach the world and think about life is quite different. So I don't ever catch myself doing anything that's like, oh, that's like Trudy. um, but I'm sure she's still in there somewhere.
Interesting, actually, Tony. Just you mentioned about maybe the future world traveling, and I'm just thinking again with the when you were traveling as a young lass on the tribe tours that, you do you enjoy travel? You've enjoyed seeing different parts of the world.
I love it. I really, really love it. I'm a glutton for novelty. I love trying new things and having new experiences. So travel is, that's what traveling is. You get to see things you've never seen before. So yes, I love it.
Do you have a favorite destination, a favorite holiday spot that you've gone to that you'd love to go back to?
Well, yeah, my favorite place I've ever been to is New York City.
Wow.
I just love it. I've been back a few times now, and every time I just, set foot in Manhattan, I just feel swept up by the energy there, and I really love going to theatre. I love watching theatre, and I just absolutely adore walking around those streets of Broadway and just seeing play after play after play. It just feels like such a gift. So yeah, that's my favorite.
That's good. Could you ever see yourself living in New York?
I absolutely could see myself living in New York. Yeah, that's definitely a dream of mine. If there was a way that I could be living there and working over there, that would just be wonderful.
Yeah, I spent a bit of time myself in New York in my early days, and I agree with you. The energy, it's a very magical, special place. The energy is quite extraordinary, isn't it?
Yeah, it really is. And I just love that it feels like there's room for everyone in New York. It is such a melting pot of all different kinds of people from all different walks of life. And it just feels like everyone is welcome there, because everyone is so different. I love that.
No, that's great. Now, I've just got some. I'm just going to try and get some other questions from Instagram or Twitter. So from Little Snake 11, that's the name here. So good morning, Little Snake 11. I hope you're doing well, and I hope I'm in Australia. So I hope I don't meet some of your namesakes. I'm paranoid about snakes, Tony. And
Oh, yeah, fair enough.
yeah, luckily I've only seen one here, but so Little Snake. Was it difficult to play a character having postnatal depression?
um, yeah, really good question. Uh, yeah, I think I did find it challenging, and mainly because I was so young and didn't have really any experience or understanding of what that was. So, and I obviously wanted to do my best with it, because I think whenever you're well, whenever you're playing a character, but when you're playing one that is going through something big that a lot of people go through for real in their actual lives, it's both a privilege and a responsibility to honor their experience by what your character is doing and by what you the actor are doing in serving that storyline. So in that way, yeah, I felt it was challenging because I wanted to do my best with it to give it the proper weight and significance that it deserves, because it is such an important and challenging issue for so many people in the world. So yeah, I did find it challenging, but also I think with anything like this, it feels like a privilege to be given the chance to show what that can be like for someone.
Well, that's good. And that's, I'm sure, helped a lot of people, Tony, you know, whether it's postnatal depression or mental health issues that, again, as you rightly say, a lot of the kind of audience, the listeners will have found some solace or some inspiration or some reference points in the storylines, and above all, your tremendous performance. I mean, bringing it so real and bringing it to life. That now I've got another question on Twitter this time from Evangeline. Good morning, Evangeline. And I'll just read this for you, Tony. As you're one of the few people from the series who continued with acting, I loved you in Sisters. And how do you feel the tribe impacted on or set you up for your career?
Oh, really lovely question. Thank you. It impacted me a lot, and I think one of the things that I got out of it, which has really helped, is actually discipline. And I know that might sound like a bit of a funny thing to say, but we learnt a lot of discipline because we were teenagers and working in this adult environment, and so we had to learn to behave like professional adults, and that meant learning our lines. And if we didn't learn our lines, we had a dialogue coach who would, you know, not tell us off but work with us really hard so we knew them. So we'd always come to set on time with our lines learnt. And also, again, we were teenagers, and so we often had to be told to be quiet by the what's called the first assistant director, who's sort of in charge of the set. And so again, I think we were well behaved because we were really well trained about how to be professional actors from a young age, and so that just became really sort of intrinsic in me. And on top of that, the technical skills that we learned, because we shot, I think it's 260 episodes of The Tribe.
Oh,
So
amazing, really, and quite a fast pace as well, Tony, isn't it? Really, in those days, I mean, few people would have shot so many minutes a day as we did.
oh, I know. It's funny looking back. I can't really believe how we did it, or how you guys did it from a production level, how you scheduled everything. It was really a logistical nightmare, I'm sure, but you managed it. So yeah, the technical skills that I got in terms of finding your light, hitting your mark, where's the camera, you know, camera technique, and the discipline of turning up on time, lines learnt, prepared, and then behaving professionally on set, I think I take that with me everywhere I go, and it's held me in really good stead. And I remember turning up onto a film set, one of the first ones I'd gone to after doing The Tribe, and it was an like a more adult show, and I just couldn't believe like how much everyone was talking. And, you know, they'd say turnover, which is what you say at the beginning before you do a take, and people would still be talking. It's like, but hang on, that's rude. No, you have to shut up and get ready to go. And so I think that, yeah, that training of, you know, be professional, have good manners, be well behaved, really, really has helped me.
Interesting, Tony, from the production point of view. Have you any aspirations to perhaps produce yourself or write, or is it solely the acting that's your interest?
Yeah, I do actually, and they're just kind of burgeoning now or in the last few years. I definitely want. I'm actually my partner Dan. He is also an actor, but he's sort of mainly a writer. That's where his main energy goes, and so he and I are working on developing a couple of new TV show ideas at the moment, which
That's
I'm
good.
really enjoying, and I feel very fortunate that he can help me in that process because I'm a bit of a newbie. So
Yes.
I'm definitely more drawn to the creation of shows, and perhaps writing. I think I definitely have to do a bit of practice on that, but on coming up with characters and story and concepts, and then being a sort of a producer more than a director. I think I haven't really got any aspirations to do that. And I created an online TV show, not an online TV show. Doesn't make sense. An online show last year, which it wasn't a drama. It was a non-fiction thing where I was the presenter, but that was my idea, and I was one of the producers on that, and I really enjoyed that process. So I think,
Tony, on that, if some of our listeners, if they wanted to check that out, how could they go about doing that? Is it still online? I mean, they can.
yeah,
How will they find it?
so it's you go to www.stuff.co.nz, and the series is called Being Human. To be honest, I'm not sure if there are limitations on how you can view it, if people from other countries can. But actually, in saying that, no, I think some people from America were able to watch it. So www.stuff.co.nz, and then if you search Being Human, which is the title of the show, you'll be able to see that.
No, that's great. Do you know? I'm just looking. It's amazing how fast this hour has flown by. It's been a real privilege and a pleasure. I mean, it's just gone. We'll have to do this again sometime. But just in winding up, have you got any thoughts at this time, Tony? Any messages or any advice? I know we've touched on it a bit with us, with the world in lockdown and facing these uncertain times. But any final things you'd like to say to your fan base?
Yeah, well, first I would just like to say thank you so much for your continued support and loyalty of the tribe. I can't really believe that it's, coming up 20 years. Or in fact, is it over 20 years now? Yes, it's over.
We're in our 21st year now, yeah.
Oh my gosh, we're in our 21st year. So 21 years after we started making it, the fact that you guys are still so loyal and connected to the show is really amazing, and I love hearing from you. So thank you so much for sending me messages and letters and telling me about how you connected to the tribe and what it meant for you. That means so much to me. So thank you for that. And I really hope you're all doing okay. These are such uncertain times, but it will be okay. There's that great saying that says it will all be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, then it's not the end. So I think we just keep on keeping on. We listen to the advice that we're being given and just do our best to follow that advice and be sensible and look after yourself and others around you in the process. But go well, everybody.
No, well, that's lovely and great advice, Antonia. Thank you for that. And on behalf of all in Tribe World, thank you for taking the time to have a chat. I've enjoyed it, and we're going to catch up on a personal level very soon, I hope. And in the meantime, you look after yourself and your lovely partner Dan and little Freddie, and you give my love to your family and your mum and dad, and they'll be no doubt enjoying that. You were saying that's a third grandchild, yeah?
Yeah, third grandchild. Yeah.
That's terrific, and to all you in Tribe World, echoing Tony's thoughts, you take care of yourself and stay strong, stay safe, stay positive, and don't be fed by imagination to those who are a bit anxious and a bit frightened, and onwards and upwards, and we'll, as we say, keep the dream alive. So thank you, Tony. You take care, and until the next time, all the best from us over here. Thank you, Tony.
Thank you so much, Ray. It was so lovely chatting to you.